Welcome to the walkthrough for SkyGlow Light Ambient Designer. SkyGlow is a 4-engine atmosphere and drone instrument built around light, luminous, cinematic textures, perfect for ambient music, film scoring, pop production, and more. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's jump right in and explore a few presets so you can get a feel for the instrument's sound and capabilities. There are 130 presets available in SkyGlow, and they use a tagging system to help narrow down your search results. To start, let's select Inspiring and Peaceful. Let's also add Abstract to give things a slightly more unique character. A quick note on playback. You can trigger the 4 engines individually on keys D1 through G1 to manually bring in and out various parts of your atmosphere. But for this demo, I'm just going to use the yellow Play All key on A1 so we can hear each preset as one complete atmosphere. Let's take a listen. You probably noticed during those presets that there's a lot of variety in the sounds used to build these immersive atmospheres. Let's change things up and look for something that's both inspiring and evolving. While previewing presets on this page, you can also use the XY pad to isolate the individual sound sources that make up each preset, or even preview what's possible using a recorded XY motion. Now let's search for something tempo synced that also has some percussion elements and a darker tone. Now we use the term dark loosely here. SkyGlow was really focused on beautiful, luminous atmospheres. So think of these presets as simply having a little more edge while still fitting in within SkyGlow's overall vibe. Finally, using SkyGlow's sample content, we've also created a collection of fully playable instruments called pads. For the best playback experience, it's highly recommended to use the SkyGlow pad mode instrument when playing these presets. Pad mode allows you to perform them chromatically using the playable section on the right side of the keyboard. Because the pad mode instrument does not support tempo sync samples, you'll want to either use the standard SkyGlow instrument or the SkyGlow Tempo Sync HQ version if you plan to work with tempo sync samples. For a more in-depth listen to SkyGlow's many presets, be sure to check out the video called Exploring the Presets of SkyGlow, where you can hear a much wider range of the sounds from the instrument. This video can be found on the SkyGlow product page at vir2.com. We'll also put a link in the description below. Let's jump into the sample browser and take a look at the wide variety of sounds available in SkyGlow. You can access the browser by clicking on the sample name in any of the 4 engines. There are over 800 different sound sources, giving you a full palette of sound types, not just tonal material, but also atonal textures, tempo sync content, percussive elements, field recordings, low and bass samples, airy high frequencies, static layers, and evolving textures that give your atmosphere real expression in life. To change a sound in any of the 4 engines, first make sure the engine you want to edit is currently highlighted. To narrow down your search results, you can use the tags at the bottom to quickly find what you're looking for. On the left side are the 4 main sound types, where you can choose between atonal or tonal samples, and whether you want material with tempo or no tempo. If you choose a sample with tempo, it will automatically sync to your DAW's host BPM. For now though, let's select something with no tempo. The remaining tags let you refine your search even further using descriptive categories. You can select one or more to get very specific. Let's start by choosing peaceful, evolving, and harmonic. I also want something with a lower mid frequency focus, so I'll select the lower mid tag as well. Now on the right-hand side, you'll see all the samples related to the tags we've selected. To load any result into any engine, simply click on the sample name. Let's stick with this sample and move on to engine B to add something that complements it. This time, let's look for something with tempo and movement to add a bit of a shimmery motion. I'll switch no tempo to tempo, and I'll select high and airy. Let's take a listen to a few options. Okay, let's hear our first 2 selected sounds played together. If you come across a sample you really like or want to revisit later, you can always add it to your favorites by clicking the star next to its name. Then when you click Favorites, you'll find this sample plus any others you've selected as a favorite in the past. Now that we have sounds filling the mid and upper frequencies, let's find something for the low end to give your overall atmosphere a solid foundation. Let's select low, monophonic, tonal, and no tempo. Let's go with this low-end sample and hear all 3 selected samples played together. This atmosphere is coming along great so far. Let's find something for engine D now. With so much to choose from, there are a lot of directions we could go. We might choose something atonal with no tempo, like one of the many ambient field recordings, to add a bit of textured ear candy. Or maybe a subtle percussive element is the way to go. You could also look for something a little unique and quirky. For that, I'll select the analog tag along with tonal and no tempo. And if you're not sure what to add, you can always leave it to chance using SkyGlow's Sound Randomizer. Let's deselect everything except Engine D and roll the dice to find something new for our final layer. Now that we have the foundation of our atmosphere, let's head back to the main page of SkyGlow to explore the other controls and options we have to continue shaping our sound. The first option is right at the top, where you'll find a playback key drop-down menu. Here, you can select the key of the playback of your atmosphere. Keep in mind, though, this only affects the playback of the engine triggers on the left-hand side of your keyboard, while the chromatic playable section on the right side of your MIDI keyboard is not affected by your key selection. The waveform viewer for each engine is also where you can drag and drop your own wave or AIFF samples into SkyGlow. Combining the sample library from SkyGlow plus your own samples really creates endless possibilities. If we click the wrench icon on any engine, we'll see a few easy-to-use controls for further shaping of each sound. Here you can adjust overall volume, pan, and pitch, along with a filter. You can also add modulation effects to any of the 4 engines, but we'll cover how to use those in more detail a little later. You'll also find controls to shape your volume envelope with these ADSR controls. Say you want a slower attack on any particular sound, we can simply turn up the attack knob here. If you want to adjust a control across all 4 engines at once, click the link icon and then adjust the parameter you want to change. Let's give everything a longer release time by turning up the release on this engine. With the link icon engaged, you'll see the release time increase across all 4 engines. Let's take a closer look at this filter control that lets you quickly shape the frequency range of any sound. Since we already have a solid low-end layer in engine C, let's cut out some of the lower frequencies on engines A and B. We don't need any extra extreme low frequencies from those engines, since they could conflict with our low-end sample and muddy the overall sound. For the sample on engine D, we might want to lower the high end a bit to push that sample further back in the mix. You can also drag the center circle to shift the overall frequency range, allowing you to move the center point of the filter as needed. The XY pad can be used in a number of different ways. To understand the XY pad, think of it as having 4 quadrants, each associated with one of the 4 playback engines. The more you move towards a quadrant, the louder the sample loaded in that engine will become, while the others will simultaneously get quieter. So if I pull the center point towards engine A will gradually get louder while the other engines fade away. If I pull straight up from the center, both engines A and B will get louder, while C and D become softer. With this in mind, there are all sorts of creative possibilities when using the XY pad. For starters, you can slowly morph your overall balance to create a unique, evolving atmosphere by gradually shifting focus from engine to engine. A motion like this can be recorded directly into the XY pad using the record button here. Hit record, then perform your movement. In many cases, it's best to start and end your recording in the same spot so you get a seamless loop. When you're done, hit the record button once more to end the motion recording. Now hit the play button to begin the motion of your recorded XY pattern. If you recorded your movement to a specific tempo, you may want to keep the sync button enabled in case you adjust the tempo of your project. Next to this is a control called On Trigger. When enabled, the recorded XY motion will re-trigger from the beginning each time you play a new note or chord. In this example, I have 2 different sounds that slowly morph from one to another each time I play a new chord. In the online demo for SkyGlow called Beyond the Horizon, both the forward-played version of the sample called New Light is loaded in Engine A, and the reverse version is loaded in Engine B. At random brief moments, the reverse version is brought in to add a unique variety and interest to the sound. To do this, you can set up a CC control for both your X and Y axis by clicking the MIDI icon here. Then right-click or control-click on either knob and move any slider or knob on your MIDI CC controller to assign it. With this setup, XY axis movements can be recorded into your DAW at very specific moments. In some cases, you may want to disable an engine from the XY pad. Engine C is our bass sample, and we want it to remain unaffected as we use the XY pad. Click this icon to remove the engine from the XY control. Now, no matter where the XY pad is set, the low-end sample remains constant. Let's now take a look at the mod section, or modulated effects. You'll notice 4 numbered on-off buttons within each engine. These numbers correspond to the modulation slot you see here on the mods page. Each mod combines an effect with a modulation source, either an LFO or a step sequencer, allowing you to create motion and unique performance possibilities. You'll see that mod 1 is currently set to control volume. This effect has a simple volume knob, and it's currently being modulated by LFO 1. LFO 1 is an oscillator set to a sine wave pattern, moving at a rate of 1/4 note per cycle, with no fade in and the amount set to maximum. If we turn on mod 1 for engine 1 and trigger the sample, you'll hear the effect of the volume now being modulated by the LFO. Each mod can also be set to trigger using a key switch. Clicking the keyboard icon assigns a trigger at D0 on the keyboard. Now the volume modulation will only occur when D0 is pressed. In total, there are 10 different effects that can be modulated. To change an effect, click the mod slot you want to edit, then select a new effect from the options below. For example, I'll assign a high-pass filter to mod 2. You can see this effect has 2 parameters that can be modulated: cutoff and resonance. For this effect, let's use LFO 2 to control the cutoff and step sequencer 1 to control the resonance. For LFO 2, I'll select a sawtooth waveform, and for the resonance, I'll use step sequencer 1 and create a simple pattern. So you can see and hear how powerful the mods can be for creating tempo-synced, evolving effects that add motion, character, and life to your sound. Before moving further, let's take a full look at SkyGlow's keyboard layout. On the right side, this blue section is the chromatic playable range. This is where you can perform melodies and chords. To the left of this are the engine trigger keys. Starting at A1 is the yellow play all key, which triggers all 4 engines together as a complete atmosphere. Then on D1 through G1, you can trigger engines A, B, C, and D individually. This gives you hands-on control to bring layers in and out. Below that are additional control keys. This green key on B0 controls playback of any recorded XY pad motion that you've recorded. Press it once to start the motion, and again to stop it. Finally, if you've set all mods to be controlled via triggers, you'll see all 4 mod triggers here from D0 to G0. Next, let's take a look at the edit page. To edit any of the 4 engines, simply click the engine you want to make changes to. At the top, you'll find the Loop toggle button. By default, looping is enabled, allowing the sample to continue playing as long as a note is held. If looping is turned off, the sample will play through once and then stop. In the center, you'll see the waveform of the currently loaded sample of the engine you have selected. Here, you can adjust the playback start position, as well as the loop start and loop endpoints. When a sample includes tempo information, you'll have the option to select halftime, normal speed, or double time playback. Most of SkyGlow's tempo sync content was recorded between 80 and 130 beats per minute. So if your project tempo falls far outside of that range, using halftime or double time options can really help your sample fit better in your music. If a sample does not contain tempo information, the playback speed control will remain fixed at 1x. Over on the right side is another location you can drag and drop your own samples into any engine. Just a reminder, only WAVE and AIFF samples are supported for this feature. For any of your own samples you load that need to tempo sync, you need to ensure a few things. First, make sure the audio has been properly trimmed to exact bar lengths, so Contact can accurately read its timing. Next, make sure the engine you are loading your sample into already has a tempo-synced SkyGlow sample loaded. You can identify tempo-synced SkyGlow samples by the BPM label included in the sample name. This ensures the engine is already set to a tempo-sync playback mode. If you load a user sample into an engine that is using a non-tempo sync sound, your sample will play back only at its original speed. Along the bottom of the edit page, you'll find other familiar controls carried over from the main page's edit view, including the 4 mods, on and off switches, the mix section with volume, pan, and pitch, along with filter and envelope shaping controls. You'll also find a few additional options here. Crossfade time allows you to smooth the transition between loop points for more seamless sustained playback. Because of Kontact's time machine playback limitations, loop crossfading is only effective when using the pad mode version of SkyGlow. The octave control lets you quickly transpose any sample up or down in octave increments. And finally, multi-output routing allows each engine to be assigned to its own Kontakt output, perfect for processing individual engines separately inside of your DAW. To use this feature, just make sure you've loaded the multi-output version of Kontakt. Next, let's take a look at the effects page. Here you can shape your sound using either individual engine effects or master effects that process the overall sound. Starting with the individual effects, select the engine you want to edit by simply clicking in its engine box. Each engine has its own chain of effects that can be enabled and adjusted independently. Simply turn on an effect and adjust its controls to taste. In total, there are 7 individual effects available per engine, giving you plenty of flexibility to shape each layer of your atmosphere independently. Delay and reverb work a little differently from the other effects. These are send effects, which means each engine has its own send amount controlling how much of the sound is sent to the effect. However, the main delay and reverb settings themselves are shared across all engines. So if you adjust something like delay time while working on engine C, you'll see that same setting when switching to another engine. But unless that engine's send amount is turned up, you won't actually hear the effect applied. Now let's take a look at the master effects section. Master effects process the combined output of all 4 engines together, rather than a single engine. Just like before, simply enable an effect and adjust the parameters to shape the overall sound. Now let's take a look at the keyboard page. This page lets you customize the chromatic playable section on the right side of SkyGlow's keyboard. Each engine can be added to or excluded from this section by selecting or deselecting it using the keyboard icon next to each engine. For each engine, you can adjust the playable range simply by dragging either the top or bottom edge of its range bar. For example, I can take engine C and extend the upper range to cover more of the keyboard. This makes it easy to split sounds across different parts of the keyboard or layer multiple engines together within the same range. You can see in this example, engine D is set by itself to the lowest part of the chromatic range. Engine B is also set by itself up a bit higher on the keyboard. And then engines A and C are layered together in the highest part of the keyboard range. Within this graphic, you'll also notice where the root key indicator is for that particular engine. The root key determines where the sample plays back at its original pitch. This can be especially useful if you've moved a sound into a much higher or lower range and want to keep it sounding natural. For example, if I were to move engine A's range to the bottom of the keyboard, you'd see the root key is located much higher than its new play range. This will result in the sample from engine A playing back significantly pitched down. Let's move its root key from G6 to G2 so that my playback range and root key range align in the same area. However, you might find in some cases playing back a sound dramatically lower or higher than its root key can create some unique and musical results. Some samples, such as percussion or atonal material, won't have a defined pitch. In those cases, you'll see NA listed for the root key. These sounds will play back at the same pitch regardless of where they're triggered on the keyboard. You'll also notice that the keyboard changes color depending on which engines are active. If 2 or more ranges overlap, the color of whatever layer is on top will be the one displayed. For example, if I overlap engine B with engine C, you'll see the keyboard color update to the top engine of the 2, which is engine B's green color. Finally, you can also adjust velocity ranges for each engine. This allows a sound to trigger only within certain velocity levels. For example, I could set engine B to play only at higher velocities, meaning it will only be heard when playing more aggressively. This makes it easy to build expressive performances where different layers will sound depending on how hard you play. One thing to keep in mind is that SkyGlow includes a lot of polyphonic content, including samples with built-in chords, dense textures, as well as atonal and percussive material. Because these sounds already contain a lot of musical information, they aren't always intended to be played like a traditional piano or keyboard instrument. In many cases, you'll get the best results by using keyboard ranges creatively, perhaps holding a single low note to support a bass layer while triggering just a few notes in other ranges to introduce movement or texture. However, if you want sounds that work better for traditional keyboard-style playing, you have a couple options. First, you can try some of the pad presets we mentioned earlier, or use the monophonic tag when browsing samples. These sounds don't contain the dense harmonic layers found in a lot of SkyGlow's content, making them much more suitable for melodic or chord-based playing across the keyboard. Well, that wraps up our walkthrough of SkyGlow Light Ambient Designer. As you've heard, SkyGlow offers a wide range of luminous atmospheres, evolving textures, and expressive performance tools, all designed to help you quickly build immersive, inspiring soundscapes. If you'd like to explore further, be sure to visit vir2.com, where you'll find additional information about SkyGlow, along with more videos and audio demos. Thanks so much for watching.